Alright guys, this is the first episode of The Complete Knockout. I'm your host, Alex Moks, and today we're going to be going through a lot of things revolving the up-and-coming UFC event that's taking place this Saturday, and that's with Tyron Woodley and Darren Till for the welterweight championship. So, a lot of things have been going up and leading up to this fight. We know that there's a lot of different aspects affecting this fight in particular. First though, I want to speak on the actual pay-per-view card, and the actual pay-per-view card itself is it's pretty weak. It's not that good. UFC 220 I'm talking about. If you're just listening, I mean, the main event can sell enough fights on its own. You basically got the young lad from Liverpool going up against really just a stud in Tyron Woodley, an All-American, a heavy puncher, an individual who's been defeated badly by Nate Marquardt back in Strikeforce, and just overcame all adversity, has never been caught for anything too malicious and speculative outside the octagon. And he really goes out there to fight a way that wins, and that does include knocking people's heads off their shoulders like he did with ruthless Robbie Lawler. Although Tyron does have his his kinks, I would say, which I will get into, I think he is a good representation for a sport, and I think that's going to be a great fight between Tyron and Darren. But if you look at the rest of the card, I mean, we do have another championship with Nico Montana defending her belt for the first time after winning it from the Ultimate Fighter against Valentina Shevchenko. I'm going to do a fight prediction, but this is just going to be a brutal murder by Valentina Shevchenko. She's going to be the next champion. I mean, Nico Montana. Jessica Andrade is fighting on this card. But Nico Montana, you shouldn't put your money on Nico. Valentina has proven that she is a top female fighter in the UFC division, and you would just be a person who just wants to lose their money if you're betting on Nico. Her record's 4-2 after the Ultimate Fighter. So when she got called into the Ultimate Fighter, her record was 3-2, and she is the UFC's flyweight champion. If any male with a record of 4-2 had a championship belt in the UFC rankings, even in the Bellator rankings, that should be a disgrace for that organization. And I'm happy that Valentina Shevchenko has put it into her own hands to take back a belt and, to make it worn by a person who's truly worthy of being a champion in that division. Nevertheless, so we go on. We have Jessica Andrade versus Carolina Kowalkiewicz. Caroline's coming off a pretty decent split decision victory with Felice Herrig. I had Felice winning that, but, Jessica Andrade is just a beast. Everyone knows this. Brendan Davis coming in short notice to fight Zabit Magomedsharipov. If you're a risky person and you really want to risk some things and maybe make money, I mean, I would never advise betting on Brendan Davis, especially not against Zabit. But I mean, it's a Hail Mary toss. You're kind of looking at it as a Matt Serra, George St. Pierre type situation. Zabit is not gonna lose. He shouldn't lose, but we'll go on. We got Aljamain Sterling, the Funk Master, versus Cody Stamann. Cody doesn't really have a name for himself. Aljamain Sterling, he was at one point foreseen as a future bantamweight contender, but he was derailed a few times by in one of the fights against Brian Caraway. But moving on, we have Abdul Razik Al Hassan coming off that sickening knockout against Nico Price. That's going to be a good fight. I think that's going to be one of the best fights on the card. Both of these guys only have one loss on their records. Both similar fighters, both similar in age. And this is definitely going to be a title elimination fight. I think the winner of this could get a UFC Fight Night co-main or even main event card, depending on this performance. But we'll see. And then we got John Dodson. We got the flyweights, John Dodson versus Jimmy Rivera. Jimmy coming off that sickening KO by Marlon Moraes. I mean, that was a pretty devastating fight. That was only his second loss in his pro mixed martial arts career, but I mean, it did put him back quite a bit. He was, if you look at Marlon Moraes, he's now in contention to fight for the title, and he's on the undercard fighting John Dodson of the UFC 228. Which, to be honest, I think this fight could be, above a few fights I mentioned previously. But moving on, Carla Esparza versus Tatiana Suarez, Diego Nightmare Sanchez versus Craig White. Who the fuck is that? We got Jared Brooks versus Roberto Sanchez. Also a good fight. Also a good fight because one of these guys, the winner, is going to move up the rankings significantly. We got Charles Byrd versus Darren Stewart, Jeff Neal versus Frank Camacho, and Jim Miller versus Alex White. Jim Miller's opening the fight on, the prelims or the fight pass or whatever. And Jim Miller is a vet. He is a vet of all vets. He is a great fighter. What is that? This would be his 41st MMA fight. He's been in a lot of UFC fights. Him and his brother Dan both kind of pioneered a lot of the UFC lightweight rankings back in the day, but he just never had that moment to shine. And when he was given the opportunity, he would just lose against the other person facing in front of him. So, I think Jim Miller's kind of in his Jake Ellenberger days. I think he's 1 or 2 fights away from losing. I don't think he has the same chin. I think he needs to kind of consider his health at this point. After 40 MMA fights, after 40 grueling brawls, knockouts, however you want to describe it, he should hang up the gloves.